Welcome into the CHGO Bears Podcast on training camp is finally starting week. That's right, Gregory. Get it going, buddy.
Let's go.
I mean, we got Emma smiling in the background. We got a huge
Say
smile.
goodbye to your families. Football is back.
That's there it is. Nobody has been more excited about this than all of us here because the content is going to be just flowing left and right. Friday is report day. We're going to hear from Ryan Poles. We're going to hear from Matt Eberflus. We're going to hear from Nicholas Moreano.
Hogue's going to come back.
The Hogue return is coming back on Wednesday. That is all true. But, Nick, we have to start with a very exciting development over the weekend. First of all, the three of us went out to Cole Kmet's camp to see Cole.
Oh, yes.
Which was amazing. Cole did a great job supporting the youth of America.
Yeah, that was fun.
It was
good time.
Yeah, and
Cole's not the best quarterback or
DB.
He's got to work on some of his other
does play
skills
tight end,
outside
though.
of tight end.
I actually thought, because the last time I saw Cole throwing a football was on the roof here when I was blazing by Greg Braggs, who was trying to cover me with his inability to be an athlete. And Cole was terrible that day. His throws were way off the money, and I nearly fell off the roof.
Yeah, because I had a pass deflection, so I don't know what you're talking about with my coverage.
It wasn't good. I had you beat by 4 steps. Just Cole was off. But the point being is that I thought with the campers, he was pretty damn good, even though we tweeted out a video of him throwing an interception. I think we had that wrong. It actually was a completion, so that's on us.
He did nail a kid right in the chest. He nailed the kid right in the chest.
Yeah.
The ball bounced right off his chest.
Yeah, he threw like
That's
40
on
yards
him.
into a crowd, and it beamed this one kid. That was the best.
But he threw it like 1 mile an hour. That kid's got no future in the game.
Can we calm down, Mark? Okay.
He's not watching.
He's learning.
Listen, if his parents are, they already know too. He's headed to the computer world.
Keep going to camp.
It's all right. Hey, he was out there to have a good time.
No, but it was cool, to see that, be out in Lake Forest.
And DJ Moore also arrived and showed up support there.
Yep.
Yeah.
In his Lightning McQueen
Crocs. Those are dope.
But that was all cool, and Greg drove 7 hours to get there from his cul-de-sac in Indiana, and I
got to get used to the drive, right? We're going to be doing it a lot here in the next month.
Yeah.
True.
But you didn't mention what you were doing the rest of the weekend, and part of that was that you were going to try to usurp everybody on the show and get on Hard Knocks, which apparently
usurp?
Yes. Step over.
Okay.
Dominate. Take all the spotlight from all of us. I completely support this. You absolutely should have done this. I wouldn't have said anything. As a me guy right here, I would have kept quiet too. But you had secretive plans.
Was it secretive? I saw over the weekend.
I did not hear about it.
What did you
saw
do?
over the weekend on Bears Reddit. I came across, I'm always checking Bears Reddit because Bears Reddit is on top of things.
They love
me.
me.
I saw this flyer that said that they were going to film Hard Knocks on the Riverwalk on Monday morning. And so, knowing that I was coming to the city today, I was like, I'm gonna go stop by and see how things are going.
Right. A wee guy would have been like, "Yo, guys, they're filming Hard Knocks. Let's come over to the Riverwalk."
So that's what this is. You're
happy for you, Greg.
For me going out there. You're mad that I didn't invite you.
Well,
that seems to be Steven, doesn't this seem to be where this is going?
There's a little hint of
the me guy is mad that the me wasn't involved.
No, I honestly,
they gave this. Shut up, Carm. Nobody cares that you weren't there.
I would have been the only one in our meeting today.
Guy,
you
barely knows anything about the Bears, but wants to be on the Hard Knocks thing. So here, look, they gave a nice poster. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, there was like 50 fans out there. Shout out to Derek from Hard Knocks. He let me jump in there. They already had like a bunch of fans there when I was walking up, limping up, and so it was cool.
But
and
you're going to be on Hard Knocks is the punchline.
We'll see. I mean,
so
they did a
intro.
bunch of different shots. So they did like crowd shots. They did some individual shots with people. Some people were on the bridge. Some people were on the Riverwalk. They even had players on a boat. I won't spoil who coming across. And
Spoil it.
There's no spoilers.
Why?
Stay tuned for Hard Knocks.
No, don't.
Stay tuned for Hard Knocks.
No, don't kiss up.
That's called a teaser in
Don't-
the business.
No, don't kiss up to Hard Knocks. Who was on the damn boat?
I'm not giving it away. Not giving it away.
Just
No
got to
spoilers.
watch,
I'm
Mark.
not going to spill the tea on HBO. They were nice enough to invite fans out there. I'm not going to spill the tea. That's called
More loyal to
professionalism.
HBO than the CHGO listeners.
You know who wasn't on the boat? Mark Carman wasn't on the boat. So that part I'll give away.
Was Caleb Williams on the boat?
I'm not giving away. You're just going to have to tune in August 6th. No, Emma. I will not spill the tea as she sits over there here in our chat. But it was.
Steven, make him say who was on that boat. Or
What am I, his dad?
Yes, you are. This is ridiculous. We can't find out.
It doesn't matter.
Let me ask you this though: Is this going to be the intro to all the Hard Knocks? Is this like a 1-episode thing? What is this?
Well, that was that's what I'm assuming is that they're using it to integrate some of these shots with the fans in the city into the intro of
They
the
play
show.
offense and defense.
I just
There's a bunch of fans there, families. It was really cool. And
I want you all to know that if I had been invited to be on the boat with Gregory,
I wasn't on a boat.
if I had been invited to the event and stood on the sidelines and wore my CHGO shirt like Gregory, I would tell you who was on that boat.
Well, yeah, exactly.
We got
We're
a
gonna know what,
$5 super
August
chat
6th?
here from Kevin. $5 of love for the show to start the week. Let's get after it this week.
I know this is
Go,
exciting.
Kevin.
We're here
Kevin,
after long,
made it.
arduous wait. Now yesterday was the last Sunday for the next 7 months without football.
here comes Gary Rappaport. They already had other B-roll film. How does he know literally everything? How does he know?
Well, right. Well,
He-
Gary, I understand they have other B-roll film with different shots around, Hallis Hall, but I'm talking B-roll of
You're not
fans.
Gary is here to tell you that you're not making it. You're
Well,
not.
they might not. I mean, like I said,
Did you do a good job?
I did my best.
That would be weird if they have these fans
they did-
here and they
So
have
they did like
the
full
the
group
players.
shots. So that probably will get
You're
in
getting it.
Then they did like individual, different people like walking up on the bridge and like pointing at the boat, pointing at the water. And I was curious like why they had us point. And then all of a sudden they had a boat like halfway through this whole thing. Then they had a boat come through with players. And that got all the fans pretty fired up.
Yeah, that's cool. The Dirty Dog says, Carm, you're always the contrarian. I'm not sure what I'm being contrarian about right
you
now.
are. You
how am I
want to
being
talk? You're like, I want to talk about this to start the show, and then all you make it about is how I didn't tell you to come.
Brilliant angle. I thought that.
So yes,
Actually, to be fair, Mark, too, if you were in the meeting for the full time, you would have heard who the players were because Greg said it.
yeah,
I was
but
there.
He might have
Steve
heard,
was
but
there.
he's not going to.
I know,
yeah, you might have been.
I know who they are, but it's for Greg to tell.
No, I don't want to tell. Like I said, HBO is nice enough to let me jump in there.
So then,
Shout out to
all right,
Derek.
Forget
And
about
so
you. Nick,
I don't
who did
want.
he say was on there? Because I forget.
Now I feel like I can't say if Greg's
No,
not saying.
why spoil it? Let fans enjoy. This is an exciting thing.
Well, the
Everybody's
re-
excited for Hard Knocks. We're going to be doing Hard Knocks post-game shows immediately following every episode every week through the month of August. So make sure you tune in for that. It's going to be basically our after darks for the month of August. And, we'll probably have some extra, hosts of CHGO Bears on it.
Oh, really?
Maybe we'll invite you on it. Maybe for that. You weren't there for the video
Maybe
promo,
I'll just
but
take back-
maybe
maybe
we'll
I'll just-
invite you
maybe
to
I'll
the
just-
show.
Maybe I'll just take back that show that I did so well that somehow they took away from me and gave to you. All right. So more importantly than that,
You're too
as
busy
everybody
winning
wants to-
softball championships.
everybody wants to know. You're holding out on Bears fans on our show.
That is called a teaser. It gives fans excitement and
No one
something to look
wants to be
forward to.
teased.
Will you just relax?
No, I'm not going to relax. Nobody likes to be teased. We want to get to the we want to hit the home run, not be teased. No pun intended. All right, but more importantly than that, the reason why I was asking, at least one of the reasons, or where I was trying to take the conversation brilliantly, as I always do.
You are a brilliant man.
When the hell are they going to sign Caleb, man?
I know. Well, I saw somebody
Nick.
earlier in the chat say that we're at DEF CON 1. I don't know if we are exactly at DEF CON 1, Illini, MCG, but, obviously that's going to be the story of this week. Caleb did speak on it over the weekend. Do we have the exact quote?
Yeah, couple of media members got a chance to hear from Caleb Williams.
We weren't invited to that.
We were other places. But Caleb said, my lawyer and attorney and everybody, the head of the Bears, everybody up there at the top is handling that. He said, that's not my position that I'm handling. That's Caleb Williams on his contract. And he told the media that on Saturday. I mean, it's getting close to time, you guys. Look, rookies report on the 16th, and obviously training camp is this weekend. If he doesn't have a contract by the time the practices are underway, Caleb Williams will not be able to participate in those practices. And obviously, it sounds like that he obviously wants to be up and running, wants to be a part of things. But the longer this drags out, and this is also Rome Odunze as well. We can't exclude him because he also needs a sign. But it does, like DEF CON, I feel that, but I'm not quite at that level.
Here are the names of the unsigned NFL rookies right now. Caleb, Rome, J.J. McCarthy, Dallas Turner, both Vikings, obviously. Amarius Mims, tackle with Cincinnati. And then you've got a couple of second-round picks. Malachi Corley from the Jets, Trey Benson, Arizona, running back. Look, we talked about this last week, and I'm choosing not to be super nervous about this, but as we start talking about it right now, after Braggs held out on who was on that damn-ass boat, I'm starting to get a little bit nervous.
Low worry.
You got to get it done, man.
Mm-hmm.
You got to get it done. There is no leverage here. You have turned the entire franchise, in essence, over to Caleb. Whatever it takes to get him signed on his rookie deal, give him whatever concessions he wants, and let's move forward.
Well, the thing that I think in his quotes that I wasn't expecting was he basically deferred to his lawyers and his contract negotiators and his agent and said that those guys are the ones handling it and I'm staying out of it. Whereas I think most fans would look at it and say Caleb is trying to leverage for things. And so from fan standpoint, that's how they're going to see it. It's something that Caleb wants, but he's saying, hey, this is on my agent and I'm letting them work this out. And that's fine for now. And I don't have an issue. And I don't even think it's really that much of a story until we get to Friday. And then if it doesn't happen on Friday, and if there's any chance that he misses one snap of practice, that's where DEF CON 1 for Illini MCG would be more warranted. You can't miss snaps at practice. They're already so limited. Every year it becomes less and less amount of reps you get before the season starts. Being a rookie quarterback, being in a first-year offense, all these new parts here, Keenan Allen, Gerald Everett, Rome Odunze hasn't signed too. That's where you got to hit the panic button would be Saturday morning.
He look, in essence, and I don't want to overstate things, and I don't want to make too big of a deal on the Monday before training camp. There's plenty of time to do it, like the rest of today, tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. But you might as well not do training camp if you don't have him. There's no point. The whole season, and Jaylon Johnson, we're going to get to it in a second, basically said this exactly. The whole season is about him. It's about him learning the offense as quick as possible. It's about him learning from mistakes and bouncing back as fast as possible. It is about him getting comfortable with Rome, with Keenan, with DeAndre Swift. We can name literally everybody on the offense. It's about him building with the offensive line. It's about the defense making it hard for him. You got to get it like that. A lot of people, ridiculous.
Gary and many other fans think that this is a Hard Knocks thing. That because Baker Mayfield once on a Hard Knocks signed his rookie deal, and that's how they started.
That is not the Bears.
And so there, a lot of people are saying that that's what it is. So. Maybe, and that's great. If that's the case, great. But at this point, Caleb said over the weekend, it isn't done yet. That's all we have to go off of. You conjecture on whether or not it's about Hard Knocks, I guess it's yet to be determined.
We're not covering officially making the statement, and Hogue can, is kind of, he's the leader here, and he might push back on this, but I'm going to make it official. We're not covering training camp.
Gary doesn't think it's Hard Knocks, to be clear.
Yeah. We're not covering training camp till he's there. How's that? We're not going. We will protest.
I'll be there.
Nick will go.
I'll go. I'll be there.
I mean, I think it's a.
There's
fair,
no 2024 Bears season without Caleb Williams.
Right.
Let's just put it. I mean, there really isn't. But
there isn't.
it'll get done.
Yeah. I just, come on. All right. Hey, we're gonna talk about Bears win totals coming up here, and also, I mean, Jaylon Johnson's media tour just continues, but he had some really interesting things to say to Colin Cowherd, so we'll do that coming up, and then huge guest in 15 minutes, Aaron Schatz, who does phenomenal work the weeds of the NFL, is going to spend 30 minutes with us at the bottom of the hour, looking at the Bears' likelihood of success this year, the division's likelihood of success, fantasy angles, just a ton of stuff coming up. But first, choose Ray Chevrolet as your first draft pick and find the right new Chevy and the right price for you. Visit our partner this July to shop the Freedom to Save sales event. It's going on all month long at their location on Route 12 in Fox Lake, or you can go to raychevrolet.com. Shout out to Ray Scarpelli, who got married over the weekend. Congratulations, Ray. Way to go, baby. And Ray Chevy, one of the top selling Chevy dealers in the Midwest. You'll always be able to shop one of Chicagoland's largest Chevy inventories. Plus, you can find that perfect tailgate vehicle right now. Get $12,000 off MSRP on the new 2024 Chevrolet Silverado, or lease, my guy, the new 2024 Chevy Trax for only $188 a month for 24 months. Or cruise into July your own way. Shop over 125 vehicles priced under $20,000. Shop the Freedom to Save sales event all month long by visiting Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake or at raychevrolet.com. They've been serving the community since 1963. Together, let's drive.
Really excited to tell everybody about this sponsor, Factor. Warmer, sunnier days are calling. Fill up for them with Factor's no prep, no mess meals. Meet your wellness goals in time for summer thanks to the menu of chef-crafted meals with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and even Keto. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved and ready to eat in just 2 minutes, so no matter how busy you are, you'll always have time to enjoy nutritious, great-tasting meals.
I'm always busy.
You're always busy?
Yeah.
Well, that's why we have Factor, because you can make meals in just 2 minutes there, Greg. And they also have 35 different meals and more than 60 add-ons to choose from every week. You'll always have new flavors to explore. So it doesn't matter how busy you are. You have all these options. You can crush your wellness goals this July with dietitian-approved meals and ingredients that you can trust, and you can make your day delicious from breakfast to dessert. Stay filled with easy, nutritious options, and treat yourself to restaurant-quality meals that feature premium ingredients like filet mignon, shrimp, and blackened salmon. All those amazing options there. And enjoy effortless support for your lifestyle. Choose from 6 menu preferences to help you manage calories, maximize protein intake, avoid meat, or simply eat well balanced. I know during training camp, these are going to be clutch having these Factor meal kits. So what you can do is head to factormeals.com/CHGOBears50 and use the code CHGOBears50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's code CHGOBears50 at factormeals.com/CHGOBears50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active.
So the man who invented DVOA, the man who understands what the hell is going on in the football field better than probably 99%, with the exception of Greg Braggs and Nicholas Moreano and Adam Hogue, take myself out of it, is coming up here at the bottom of the hour. FTNFantasy.com /DVOA.
Really smart dude.
Smart.
You're not going to necessarily love his projections for the Bears, but
Such a spoiler. Like a spoiler. He wants to know the Hard Knocks Open. He's spoiling.
You do your role, I do my role. You do you.
Like, I'm never going to tell you if I want to see a movie that you've seen, because you'll be like, there's nothing I hate more than when I say, "Oh, I can't wait to see that movie." And they're like, I saw it, and then
did Greg see Planet of the Apes yet?
Oh, hell yeah,
He did.
Of course,
No.
Boyson,
yeah,
other Greg.
Yeah.
No, well, he's working. He's going 1 through 4.
Gotcha.
But just like that, I'm not going to tell him little
They're
tidbits
great,
about the other movies. He's going to watch them.
See,
Just like the interview.
Are you a micromanager at home? Are you
Yes.
You're going to pick up on everything that I say?
Yes.
And
You do the same thing.
whine?
Shut up.
I'm better at it. Thank you.
You're lucky Nick's in between us.
That's what I'm here for.
Thank you. No,
Separate
that's not
you
what
two.
you're here for. You're here to be the stud that you are. All right, so ESPN, ESPN has their stat projections out and has the Bears. It does every game for the entire season, and they're doing win probability. And the Bears' win probability is 50% or greater in 12 of the 17 games. All right?
Mm-hmm.
So if this hits, that would make the Bears 12-5. Now, interestingly, it starts out with they're most overwhelmingly favored in all the season in week 1 against Tennessee. 72% is the win probability.
Mm-hmm.
How great is week 1 to have your highest chance of win
Right.
of an opponent?
Okay. And then, Texans expected to lose. 41% chance to win, 59% for those of us who don't understand math. I'm looking at you, Greg.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't.
That's
My
week
brain
2.
hurts.
All right. After that, the Colts game is a coin flip, 50%. So let's just give the win to the Bears, right? 58% against the Rams, 65% against Carolina, 51 against Jacksonville, 66 against the Commanders, 64 against the Cardinals on the road, home with New England, 68%, home with the Packers, 52% favored, home with Minnesota, 65%. That's through 11 weeks. So if they actually, if the ESPN probabilities were right and the Bears won the 50-50 games, after 11 weeks, the Bears would be 10-1.
Right, and I'm seeing 4 of these games on the road. The Bears have a 50% or higher chance. One of them being
60
exactly at 50. 3 road games where they are, according to these stat projections, favored. Road favorites.
Right. So I'm going to go out on a limb and tell you that after the 11th game of the season against Minnesota, the Bears won't be 10-1, but this is how ESPN has it. Detroit on the road, 35% chance to win. San Francisco on the road, 24% chance to win. By the way, factor that in.
Right.
Not just the matchups with Bears and Niners and Bears and Lions, but a lot of people are picking the Lions, and people are sleeping on San Francisco, and I know it's tough to get back there, and they've been doing it, but
10 of the 11 first games out the gate, they have a higher win probability over 50%. Only one being Houston.
I literally said that I think 3 times.
He did.
But
He did say that, yeah.
Yeah.
I think I said it 3 times.
Well, it's hurting my head to see all these numbers, so I gotta take it in. I'm
like when you were
these.
going there, I'm like, oh, he's going here again.
I mean,
You guys, I would
Just shut the hell up and keep talking.
You're almost done. You're almost done to the list.
yeah.
So
Okay. So let
to
me
the rest
finish
of
the list, Greg. We're at Minnesota now. The 14th game of the season. 57% chance to win on the road. Home with the Lions, a significant home underdog, 43%. Home with Seattle on that Thursday night, 58% likely. And then last week of the season, Green Bay on the road, 45%. So again, 12-5.
pretty
Anybody
good.
think that's too optimistic?
Yes. It
Go
is
ahead.
too optimistic, Mark. I mean, there's some of these games, too, where I'm looking at the Los Angeles Rams home game. I have a 58% chance of winning that one. When you look at the Rams roster and what they've still have with Matthew Stafford, and yes, you don't have Aaron Donald anymore, but that's a game where I wouldn't think the Bears would have the win probability in their favor. And then even like how they have the Detroit Lions matchups and the Green Bay matchups. Both of those Green Bay matchups, the first one, 52% chance favoring the Bears. The Bears, they haven't beat Green Bay in a very long time. Detroit, they played very competitively with them, but in both those matchups, according to this ESPN stat projections, the first one against Detroit or away, 35% chance, and at home, 43% chance. So it's interesting how some of these probabilities went into the matchups for this season, knowing how the Bears have played against some of these opponents in previous years.
Well, let's just start with week 1, too.
Yeah.
I mean, I would give the Bears like a 55% chance of winning. But it's week 1. It's his first game ever. It feels more like a coin flip than anything else to me, right? I mean, you have no idea how Caleb and the offense is going to perform.
Mm-hmm.
For them to put the Bears at 72%, you are massively projecting that Caleb is going to be ready to hit the ground running.
Right. Well, there's two sides of the ball, though, Carmen, and the defense is something that these projections are also taking into account, and it's at home.
I got it.
So
Against
I mean,
Will
that's
Levis.
that's why I tried saying when the schedule came out. I mean, it was clear as day to me that week 1 is a must-win. I mean, according to these stat projections, it's the most winnable game on their entire schedule, and it's week 1. Just because it's Caleb's first game, it's first game in the offense, I understand that, but you can't lose that game when you start looking at the way that the schedule starts to trickle down after that. You just can't.
It does. It goes into the gauntlet that is the back end of it,
Mm-hmm.
which, Detroit and San Francisco and Detroit again and Green Bay. So if you're trying to dream it big this year, Bears getting in the playoffs with a fighting chance and Caleb's hot and the defense is rocking and anything's, hey, anything can happen at that point. You better not be fighting for a playoff spot the last couple of weeks. You'd rather,
You want to do what you can to put yourself in a position so that you can lose some games at the end, because it's going to be a gauntlet back end.
Right, and so hit the ground running to start the season, which gets us back to the original point, which is you need to get Caleb signed. Here was Jaylon Johnson. He did another media appearance, this time with Colin Cowherd, and I thought this right off the jump was super interesting, so I pulled this quote out. Jaylon to Colin, who was filling in for Danny Parkins. For me, it just brings more excitement to see his maturity through this season, because I feel like that's what it is going to be about. It's about him learning and growing through the mistakes. So here's one of your defensive leaders, a dude who's been dying to be on a winner for a long time, a man who chose to stick it out in Chicago. Sure, a lot of that had to do with getting paid, but Jaylon, like everybody else over there, would love to win now, and he is singing the praises of Caleb and how he's different, and he's talking about certain throws that were amazing that he hasn't seen. So he's giving him all the love, but he's also saying that this season's about this dude learning and growing and getting better. I mean, I think he's laying it out pretty clear that he's not saying it's about us winning a Super Bowl this year. He's talking a lot about how it's about the quarterback and having him get up to speed as fast as possible.
I think he's in that quote acknowledging, like you were just saying, Mark, there are going to be ups and downs with Caleb. So that's why with a veteran defensive group, with the back seven that they have, like there's going to be times where also they have to pick it up even more defensively as Caleb's still navigating the NFL world, learning and growing through those mistakes. So I think obviously he acknowledges that he was once a rookie like all these other NFL players, so it's not going to be picture perfect. But he also knows how talented, and it's seen some of that talent, some of the throws that Caleb has already made at Hallis Hall and just some of the practices they've made. So it's going to be it's going to be like, I would think, a lot of rookie seasons where there's going to be those ups, there's going to be those downs, but hopefully by the end of it, you know exactly what you're getting in Caleb Williams.
Right. I see some people joking about how I go full meatball this time of year, and I do. There's no question, and I'll continue to get overly hyped through camp, watching these guys practice. It's the time of year where expectations are always the highest for Bears fans, and then the reality of the season hits. Somebody in the chat saying, Greg's going to dream big every year. My expectations for this season are essentially the exact same of what they were going into last season. I just want them to be in the hunt in December. I'm not even saying that they're definitely going to win a playoff game or that they're going to go to the Super Bowl or anything like that. I do think they have all the potential in the world to make it to the playoffs. But at the end of the day, I just want them to be in the hunt at the end. And not like last year in the hunt, where it's because they're in this graphic that fits us in at the very bottom of the almost every team in the NFC. Like, actually in the hunt. Maybe even in a lead position, in December with, the controlling the destiny in their own hands. Like, that's what I'm hoping for. So, I understand I talk big, but like my expectations, I feel like I am trying to stay a little grounded, as exciting as this season looks like it's going to be, and as exciting as this roster looks like it will be for years to come.
So a couple of just in the weeds notes from the projections here, along with Gregory's optimism here. It has the Bears scoring a trifle more, great word, Carm, this year than last year. 384 total points. So that would be 22.6 points per game. Last year, the Bears scored 21.2.
Not great.
So up 1.5 points. That ain't a huge jump, is what they're projecting. Again, they have no idea. That's why the range for the Bears is so wide. Because what happens if Caleb is CJ? What happens if he's Bryce Young?
Exactly.
God forbid. But it's it's all on the table, man.
But the talent he has around him is more comparable to CJ than it is of Bryce Young.
It's better
True.
than CJ
True. Yeah.
going into last season.
Arguably.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, I won't even say arguably. It's better. Bears giving up 366 this year. So that's 21.5 points a game. So it's a 1.1 point spread. Last year, the Bears gave up 22.3. So they're talking about a little bit less than a point a game better this year.
Right. I mean, at the end of the day, they got to take care of business. And you know who else is taking care of business? Our guys over at ComEd. It's getting easier for businesses to switch to electric vehicles. That's something we can all get behind for the health of the planet and the well-being of all of us who share it.
That's right, Gregory. Great to be able to talk with you today. The electric grid is evolving to meet your cleaner energy needs as we all move with confidence towards an electric tomorrow. Whether you have one delivery van or a whole fleet of shipping trucks, ComEd can help guide you to make the changes that make sense.
So what should business owners do, Cram?
They should go to ComEd.com/clean, Greg, to learn more about the resources, fleet rebates, and infrastructure incentives available to help businesses go electric. If you own a business, don't wait. Start making your plans today to switch to electric vehicles. It's good for the business. It's good for the planet. It's good for all of us. Go to ComEd.com/clean.
Did you say ComEd.com/clean?
Yes, I did, Greg. Go now and see how going electric connects us to a better way of doing business and a better future for generations to come.
Check out ComEd, and I want everybody to check out Shady Rays. Get ready for the season ahead with quality shades built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered with premium polarized shades that won't break the bank. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company offering a world-class product rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Their shades have durable frames and crystal clear optics, making them the perfect choice for all your outdoor adventures. They have hundreds of options to choose from, so you're bound to find the perfect pair to match your style. They probably have a style in your favorite team's colors. I'm officially getting my Shady Rays that I ordered. They should be back at the apartment by the time I get home today. We'll rock them on tomorrow's show. And so you should definitely check them out. Plus, if your shades ever go missing or take an unexpected hit, don't sweat it. They have the most insane protection in all of eyewear. Every pair is backed by lost or broken replacements. If you don't love your shades, exchange it for a new pair or return worry-free within 30 days. There's no risk when you shop. Their team always has your back with personal and fast support. Exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays giving out their best deal of the season. Head to shadyrays.com and use the code CHGO for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself. The shades are rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people.
All right. We've got 86,700 followers on Twitter.
Whew.
At A Schatz NFL, spelled ASCHATZ NFL.
Shots, everybody.
Dude crushes. He's the chief. Good job.
On a Monday.
He's the chief
Let's
analytics
go.
officer of FTN Fantasy. He's the creator of DVOA. He's an ESPN and NFL analyst forever. He's an ex-radio DJ. He is an AP All-Pro MVP voter. And according to his Twitter bio, he specializes in nuanced, ice-cold NFL takes. Which is why I get along with him. Aaron Schatz, without further ado, I think I'm about to say that again. Here was our interview with Aaron that we did just recently on Friday. Without further ado, we bring in the Chief Analytics Officer, FTN Fantasy on Twitter, the creator of DVOA, just ahead of, as we were talking, in the pregame show here, just ahead of Greg Braggs doing that. He almost did, but Aaron Schatz jumped him on it, which is amazing. Check him out, ftnfantasy.com. Literally everything you could possibly ever want in your football life is there for you, ftnfantasy.com. Aaron, we really appreciate you making time, and you go deep into all the numbers here. So you're talking to Bears fans, very passionate ones. What percentage chance, what likelihood would you give that the Bears are, let's just say, a playoff team to start the conversation?
All right. Well, we've got for the playoffs. So I'm going to be honest here. We have our projections for the Bears are lower than conventional wisdom. And I can get into why that is. It doesn't mean we're rooting against them or anything like that. But we have the Bears making the playoffs 16% of the time. And I know that that's low. It's one of the lowest in the league. And that's, I know, a bit of a surprise to people. But, the biggest issue is, as much as we want to believe in Caleb Williams, and we know that they've put a good team around it, right? Like there's no question they've put a good offense around it. You just can't count on rookie quarterbacks. So for basically all the teams with rookie quarterbacks, plus the Colts, who essentially have a rookie quarterback in Anthony Richardson, our projections are probably lower than what the fans of those teams would be looking for. Same goes for Washington, same goes for Minnesota. The exception is probably New England, and that's just because we like their defense so much. We still think their offense is going to be terrible. So, in general, you want to believe in Williams. Certainly the range of possibilities for the Bears is much wider than it is for a team like the Giants, because what if Williams does hit? What if it turns out he's CJ Stroud, right? Then, things are awesome. But if it turns out he's Bryce Young, then things are terrible. And you just have no idea which it is until you start the season.
Aaron, you wouldn't happen by no any chance what you guys had maybe the Houston Texans at maybe even like a season ago?
Pretty low. We had the Houston Texans pretty low because you had to assume the same thing from the Texans and the Carolina Panthers last year. And what you got was the Texans were basically the highest, outcome you could possibly imagine for that situation. And the Panthers basically were the lowest outcome that you could basically imagine for that situation. And all of those are in the range of possibility for the Bears with the number one pick quarterback, right? Like you want to be like, of course, Williams is such a great prospect, whatever. It's everything that we were saying about Bryce Young a year ago and everything we were saying about CJ Stroud a year ago. It's both of those things. And so you just don't know.
Yeah, and I also think, with the Texans playing in the AFC South last year versus the Bears playing in the NFC North, which is definitely a formidable division, definitely probably plays into your calculus a little bit here. So it's unfortunate that you don't have the Bears in the playoffs, and we're going to have to let you go, Aaron. We'll talk to you later. I'm kidding, of course. I actually am curious about, your inception of DVOA. It is such a commonly used, marking for teams and fans as a reference point to understanding like where their players and their teams rank, but not everybody, including me, always necessarily understands exactly what it means. And for me, when it comes to DVOA or PFF or anything like that, if the stats work in my favor for the team I like, then I cite them. And if they don't, then I discredit them. I think that's what most average fans like to do. So explain how you came up with DVOA and exactly what it means to, the fans that reference it.
Well, the how is, it comes from some ideas that were in The Hidden Game of Football, which was a book that came out 30 years ago about, the idea of success on down and distance, right? The idea that a play, 8 yards is not always a success, and 1 yard is not always a failure. It depends on what the down and distance is in the situation that you're in. And so the basic idea of DVOA is that it assigns a success on every play based on the down and distance, and then compares it to a league average baseline that is adjusted for situation and opponent. And that's the short version.
Yeah, that's I needed it in simple terms, so I appreciate that.
Well, so I'm just going into your the motivation for doing it for you, Aaron. Did you feel like you were sick and tired of seeing players that you knew were actually better, not getting the credit that they deserved, or vice versa? Like, What was the motivation behind wanting to do it?
It started out with trying to prove that there was no such thing as establishing the run. And then from there, I had this database of every play in the 2002 season, and I just started having ideas about playing with it and what could I do with it. And I felt like, there were like 100 websites that did analytics for baseball and nobody who did analytics for football, which was the most popular sport in the country. Why was nobody doing that? So I just decided I would be the guy and start doing it.
That's good business.
Yeah, it's got to be pretty cool for you and flattering, how all these years later, how much it is used and watching it turn into a real source of, knowledge for fans and media alike. And you say it started with proving that there's no such thing as establishing the run. I find that interesting, and I want to hear a little bit more on your thought on that, because in Chicago, we had Lovie Smith. We get off the bus running the football. Our fight song is "We'll never forget the way you thrilled the nation" with the T formation. So I think there's a lot of people that think that the Bears do need to establish the run this season to take some of the pressure off Caleb Williams to start the year. But you're saying that that's not exactly a necessity to a winning formula for offense?
Yeah, the truth is running more early in games does not tire out the defense and lead to more success later in games, right? Right. Analytics has shown that rushing totals are driven by the success that you have late in games when you're running out the clock with a lead. You pass to get the lead and you run to kill the clock.
So,
interesting.
Makes a lot of sense. Aaron, for the metric that you have for you developed a new metric, post-game win expectancy, a few years ago. Can you explain that to our listeners, and exactly, again, what was the motivation to want to, again, create your own metric like you have done in the past, but also what does it exactly tell people when you look at that metric?
The idea was to figure out how to identify the games where the quote unquote wrong team wins. Right? Like, what are the games where you are outplayed by the other team on a play-by-play basis, but you win the game anyway, right? That it's interesting when that happens. And so the basic idea was you put in, offensive and defensive and special teams performance, the offense, defense is split into pass and run, how many plays you ran, and penalties. And it spits out a team that performed in that way, what percentage of the time would you expect them to win? Because, here's the thing. DVOA does not include how many plays you run. It's based on efficiency, because how many plays you run is nowhere near as predictive as how efficient you are when it comes to how you're going to play for the rest of the season. But how many plays you run is pretty predictive for whether you're going to win the game. Right? Like, if you ran 70 plays and the other team ran 40 plays, usually you're going to win that game, right? So we account for that in the post-game win expectancy, but not in DVOA. And it's based on how teams play in that game. It's not a number that you figure out before the game to figure out what are the chances that a team might win the game. It's based on the play in the game when the game is over. That's why it's called post-game win expectancy.
Right. If you ran this many plays and you rushed for this many yards per play, you threw for that many, I get it.
Right. To give an example, last year, week 4 against Denver, the Bears had a 71%. You would have expected a team that played like the Bears to win 71% of the time, and they lost 31-28.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What was the number on the Lions game where they coughed it up late?
Is that week 11?
Yes.
I'm assuming 52%.
50. Okay, so it wasn't as bad.
It almost feels like the Bears are caught up in 6 of these games a year, and 3 of them go the Bears' way, and 3 of them go. I mean, I can tell you every year the Bears have won a game where the quarterback has played historically bad. So this might be.
Well, they won the greatest game of that type ever.
Right.
Or Monday night in the last 40 years, right?
Was it the Monday Night Miracle?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's the Monday night. Would you call it the Monday Night Miracle? That's interesting that it's known as the Monday Night Miracle for Bears fans, because I always think of the Monday Night Miracle as the Jets-Dolphins game.
Yeah.
Where the Jets, I believe, were way down, and they came back. I think of it as the crown their asses game.
Yeah,
True. It's a good one.
That's good.
Right.
That's
So
good.
that is the worst performance by a quarterback in a win in the last 40 years.
Which is we are very proud that happened here because I think we deserve it with the Sid Luckman Chicago Bears. Hey, Aaron, where are you at on the Lions? Do you have them in the Super Bowl? I know last year you had the 49ers coming out of the NFC and nailed that.
Yeah, and we have the 49ers coming out of the NFC again with a big gap between them and everyone else, and we have Detroit second in the NFC.
Interesting.
So we like Detroit a lot. Detroit is a very good team. And listen, it would be a great story. I mean no disrespect to my friends in San Francisco, but it would be, I mean, the 49ers haven't won in 30 years. That'd be a good story too. But Detroit has never made a Super Bowl. That would be an amazing story if they did. But we do have them behind San Francisco.
Aaron, probably haven't. Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Mark.
No, you're up, Nick.
Aaron, I probably haven't won my fantasy football league championship in close to the same amount of time. For people who, I don't know, is there any general advice that you like to follow when you're maybe gauging a wide receiver compared to a running back? Let's say round 2. I don't know, like just any general consensus on fantasy football advice for guys like me who think they know the game and then overthink it and then you're just, I'm like outplaying myself. Is there anything that you can share?
I'm going to be counterintuitive.
Okay.
I think you should be one of the first people to take a quarterback. I know that quarterbacks in most leagues go later because if you're in a 12-team league and you only start one quarterback, there's 12 good quarterbacks. There's more than 12 good quarterbacks, honestly. But the difference between the best quarterback and the 12th best quarterback is, I think, bigger than people give it credit for. And so while I wouldn't jump and go taking a quarterback in the first round of your fantasy football draft, I would be, third or fourth round. I would be one of the first people to take a quarterback and try to make sure you get Jalen Hurts or Josh Allen. Although I'm reticent on Hurts this year because I don't know how that brotherly shove is going to do without Jason Kelce playing center.
It's interesting, and give another Aaron Schatz shout out. You did have the Eagles as a surprise team in the Super Bowl in 2022. So, give me a surprise team here, Aaron. Who do you think can jump up and be in there?
We don't really have a surprise team this year. We have most of the teams performing about what they did last year. The surprise team this year is going to be a surprise, like a team that plays at the very upper end of their range of possibilities. We have teams that we have better than conventional wisdom, like New Orleans, but that's not because we think New Orleans is any kind of a Super Bowl contender, because they're not. So I wouldn't say that we have a surprise, unless you think of, I don't think Houston is a surprise Super Bowl contender. We have basically the same teams contending for the Super Bowl that everybody else has.
Well, Mark, that's interesting because we just had this discussion the other day. Who was the article that cited 12 teams that they thought, if everything went right, could win a Super Bowl?
That was Connor Orr over at Sports Illustrated, and like, I don't know where you're going with this, Greg. I think it's the same place that I was going.
Yep.
Let's just say, for argument's sake, Aaron, as we started the thing with 16% chance for the Bears to make the playoffs, if the Bears got a CJ Stroud level performance, I put in their range that at the very top of it, I'm not betting it. I don't expect it. I wouldn't, nothing. But I think at their range, they actually could do it.
Yes, I believe that it's wrong to say that only X number of teams have a chance to win the Super Bowl. The fact is, all 32 teams have a chance to win the Super Bowl. It's just the lowest teams, their chances are ridiculously small. But I don't know about you. I mean, I literally don't know about you because I'm old. But I lived through the year 1999 when the St. Louis Rams were considered to be possibly the worst team in the league going into the start of the season because they had lost Trent Green at the quarterback position, and they dominated the league. There is a wide range of possibilities for performance in the NFL for every team, even the really bad ones. I mean, I don't think the New York Giants are winning the Super Bowl, and I have a hard time putting a story together where they do. But they've got a shot. It's just that shot is ridiculously small.
I don't want to put you too much on the spot getting into the weeds of positional groupings with the Bears, but, PFF did rank the Bears secondary, 19th in the league. And this was a secondary that led the league in interceptions last year. And it just feels like for Bears fans that they have a legitimate group there. You know, do you have any kind of ranking idea of where you'd slot their secondary, or do you think that's a fair spot for them?
I'll say a couple of things. The first is that we do have to acknowledge that takeaways are more inconsistent than yardage and completions allowed. And one of the reasons why our projections for the Bears are lower than Bears fans would like to see is because the Bears were 4th in takeaways per drive last year, and that tends to regress towards the mean. Now, we have a new stat that I introduced in the middle of last year in the book this year, in the FTN Football Almanac, which is a coverage DVOA, which is based on every snap that a player is in coverage, mostly for cornerbacks, although we have it for safeties and linebackers as well. The number one cornerback last year in coverage DVOA was Jaylon Johnson.
Wow.
On the other hand, Tyreek Stevenson was 75th.
Oof.
Much better in the second half of the season than the first. He was horrendous in the first half of the season.
Yeah.
But the overall performance came out bad, right? So when you look at the group that they have, I don't look at the group that they have in the secondary and think that's a better than average secondary. I think it's a group that's a pretty average secondary with one guy who's really, really good.
Jaylon appreciates this moment in the CHGO Bears podcast right now, Aaron. And, well, he got the Bears agree because they paid him.
Yeah, they gave him the money. And that's tough because so here's an interesting thing from an analytics perspective. Cornerback play is very important. That may be your most important position on defense, right? That or edge rusher. It's also very inconsistent from year to year when compared to the other positions on defense. So it brings up this interesting question about paying guys at that position, because what you want to do is pay for future performance. And the future performance is going to be really valuable if they're really good, but it's harder to predict. It is easier to predict that Montez Sweat will be really good this year than it is to predict that Jaylon Johnson will be really good this year.
Yeah, that's something Theo Epstein, when he came to the Cubs and saved our 108-year drought here in Chicago for a World Series, that was one of his things. You pay for future performance, not past production. You know, all this analytically driven, insight that you're giving us here is really interesting, and a lot of times can be way over my head, but I think you do a good job, and people like you that do such a good job of explaining it in a way that everyone can understand. What are your thoughts on old traditionalists, especially those that are in front offices that have been here for 40 years in every sport, but specifically the NFL, that there's this fight against evaluating football the way they always have versus the way that you have over the last 10 to 20 years?
I mean, we won. The answer to that is we won. I mean, thank you, first of all, for feeling that I'm good at explaining this stuff, because I do pride myself on that. For people who don't know my background, I'm not really a math guy. I'm an ex-radio disc jockey. So I'm more of a communicator than I am a guy who gets deep into the weeds with calculus or anything like that.
So there is hope for me. Is what
like I saw someone post yesterday a quote that was from a few months ago from Kevin Colbert of the Steelers about stats can't measure intangibles. Nobody in the stats world is trying to measure intangibles. That's why they're called intangibles, because you can't measure them, right? Nobody's saying that they don't exist. What we're saying is everybody wants to account for the tangibles and the intangibles. And stats that are analytically smart and advanced can make your accounting for the tangibles much better than it was 20 or 30 years ago. And then you can hope that you're also accounting for the intangibles.
So, all right, I got questions, two-part on that. Tangibles. DeAndre Swift had a great year last year. Keenan Allen's had a great career every year. Do you think those tangibles, if you will, translate to them having successful years with the Bears this year?
I mean, with Allen, listen, there is a thing where the receivers in the past have dropped off a cliff in their final year because they just lose that ability to get open. It's like what happened to Rod Smith in his last year. Do I think that's likely to happen to Keenan Allen this year? No. I think Keenan Allen is likely to be as good as he was last year, which is pretty good. With DeAndre Swift, I mean, he's a fast guy when he gets into the open field. You just got to get the holes open for him. As an analytics guy, I don't feel there's a big difference between running backs. For the most part, running backs do not move the needle very much. And Swift is mostly a not move the needle running back. He's got different pluses and minuses than a guy like Ramondre Stevenson, but I don't see why he would be more valuable than a guy like Ramondre Stevenson or Josh Jacobs, or as opposed to say like Nick Chubb, who anytime you try to do analytics that separate a running back from his blockers, Nick Chubb, may his knee please be okay. Nick Chubb comes out like way ahead of everyone else. So like that's a guy like Chubb and McCaffrey are guys who like move the needle, but most running backs are just running backs. They're just, it's horrible to say that because that these guys have worked hard their whole careers to differentiate themselves and to become professionals. And when you say stuff like that about how they're replaceable, it makes it sound like you're belittling the difficult path that they took to the NFL. And I'm not doing that. But when you're managing a team, you got to figure out, where the differences are. And running back just isn't one of the positions where the big differences are.
It's the reality of the NFL. Yeah, it's the reality of the NFL.
By the way, it's not the reality as you go down in level. The further down you go in level, the more real difference there is between the best running backs and the average ones.
So to keep it in Bears terms, real quick, Carm, so you're saying take Keenan Allen, he's probably going to be a sneaky pick in those mid rounds for fantasy football teams. But overall, your sentiment is to say avoid taking Bears players too high in your fantasy drafts until we know who Caleb Williams is.
Yes, definitely. Swift will get, they'll run and Swift will get his running and the offensive line looks reasonable in run blocking. And so Swift, is probably worth about where he's going in most drafts. But yeah, it's amazing to me, rookies. I'm doing the Scott Fishbowl draft right now, and it's amazing to me how early rookies go. You just can't project them to be that good. Like, and Roma Dunze is a darn good prospect. Mm-hmm. But sharing the ball with Moore and Allen, like he's going too early in drafts.
Yeah, that makes sense. Aaron, you mentioned the football almanac. Can you explain? This thing looks like it has literally everything in it. Can you explain how that can be beneficial to people who maybe don't know about it and what they're getting if, they kind of venture into that?
Yeah, this is our 20th book, it's been called various things over the years. It's now called the FTN Football Almanac. And what we have is write-ups on all 32 teams with projections for this year and all the advanced stats from last year. Like that cornerback coverage stat is in there for every cornerback. We have write-ups on all the fantasy football players with projections from Jeff Radcliffe, who's won a bunch of awards for his projections. So that's all the quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends. It's a big, thick book. You can either get it as a downloadable PDF at ftnfantasy.com/almanac, or sometime middle of this week, there will be a printed version up on Amazon. I don't know if it's there as this is being broadcast, but it will be there sometime this week for a big printed copy, which, by the way, has the extra added advantage that it's really good for killing mosquitoes in the summertime. It's very heavy.
Yeah, I like that.
Or I can chuck it at Mark Carman.
There you go. A lot of options. Aaron, okay, real quick, is it 49ers and Chiefs again, or do you have somebody else coming out of the AFC?
I'm calling for 49ers and Ravens, which from my perspective is a little chalk in that the 49ers and Ravens were so far ahead of the rest of the league during the regular season last year that our projections, even with Baltimore in particular coming back to the pack, losing some players, puts those teams 1-2 for this year. And that's not to belittle the Chiefs, who have a pretty good chance of doing the three-peat that nobody's ever done. But there's a better chance that somebody else will win the AFC, right? It's not like the Chiefs have an over 50% chance of winning the AFC. And I do like Baltimore a lot as a franchise, even with some of the players that they've lost this offseason.
I want to end on a slightly heavy one, because one of the questions with the Bears is Matt Eberflus the right guy to get them from, if you want to say they're at point B to point C, although I don't even know if they made it to point B quite yet, to be honest. That would be, I would think, making the playoffs, but whatever. And then I look at it like the Atlanta Falcons interviewed Bill Belichick and chose Raheem Morris. Arguably, a lot of people say the greatest coach of all time. So I'm curious, do you have some metric on like how much coaching actually means? And if you do, like, do you think the Bears are?
I know that Sumer Sports has done some analysis of that type, where they rank coaches based on more than just their fourth down aggressiveness, right? Like, to me, there are things about coaching that you can measure, and there are things that are intangible, right? We can look at how well players get developed, certainly. We can look at whether coaches are aggressive. Do they pass more? Do they use more play action? Right? Do they go for it more on fourth down? But there's also the intangibles. Mike Tomlin, for example, like, the greatness of Mike Tomlin is in the intangibles, his ability to manage the locker room, the fact that he kept a lid on Antonio Brown for all those years, right? Being a great example of something that you can't measure. So I don't know if they're going to learn whether Eberflus is the guy, because so much depends this year on Caleb Williams and his development. And what does Eberflus really have to do with that, right? He's a defensive coach, right? That's much more about Waldron, the offensive coordinator. So, I don't know, if you get to the end of this year and the Bears are 7-10 or 8-9, did you learn that Eberflus is not the guy? Like, I don't think you've learned anything. If they're 2-15 and their defense collapsed, you've probably learned something. But most likely, I think you get to this end of the year and the Bears are something like 8-9, and you haven't learned anything about Eberflus at all. But hopefully Williams has had a good year, and there's lots of hope for him for 2025, that he really comes into his own in his second year. And because, right, there's a possibility he's going to be really good, and there's a possibility he's going to be really bad, and there's a possibility he's just going to be an average rookie.
Yep. It's a huge range. Yes, Gregory, let's go. What do you got left?
I like Aaron, but then when he starts talking about the quarterback, I get very angry.
Well, we want to, the thing is, what you want to believe a lot of good things about him, and certainly, like, the scouting reports are great, but they are for Jaden Daniels, and they are for Drake May and JJ McCarthy, and those guys are not all going to succeed.
Yep.
Right. I mean, at the time, there were great scouting reports on Trubisky. Last year, there were great scouting reports on Bryce Young. Like, I think anybody from Houston who tells you that they would have taken Stroud above Young is probably lying, because based on there were a few people that said Stroud above Young in the internet world, but for the most part, everybody felt like Young was the 1 and Stroud was the 2. And that's not how it turned out. So we don't know how it's going to turn out this year. We don't know how we don't know what's going to happen. The most that we know is that certain guys run more for fantasy purposes, like Jaden Daniels, right?
Yeah. Well, we've saw this story play out many times here in Chicago, getting excited about players before the season starts, and then eventually meeting our reality.
You've put a lot around him. You've put a lot around him to help him succeed, right? Having a Dunze there, getting Keenan Allen, the offensive line is good. They put a lot around him to help him succeed. We still don't know what he's going to be.
Yes, sir.
Aaron, I think the first time I ever found your name, I booked you for a David Kaplan radio show in like 2007. If that sounds about right. So you've been doing this for a long time. The inventor of DVOA, FTNFantasy.com, bringing the real stuff here today. I know Bears fans are going to want to fight you. Don't read the comments on this interview, Aaron. They're just they wear their heart on their sleeves in Bears land, especially.
Listen, if Williams is really good, it's a great story. It would be great for the league for the Bears to be good and have a few years of being good, and it would be great for the league for the Bears to actually have a good quarterback for one of these. Like, that would be really nice. It would be a cool thing. I'm not rooting against it.
It's happening. It needs to happen. We have to get past Sid Luckman and everything else that happened. Aaron, thanks so much for the time, my friend. We hope to do it again.
All right. Thanks for having me on.
And there he was, Aaron Schatz. Yeah. You all loved him.
The whole chat loved him.
everybody fully respected the amount of work that Aaron has put in to being the Aaron that has dominated in his
numbers,
football
man.
land.
He's got
I
all the
already
numbers.
tweeted that Hendricks and Total Anarchy loved him more than anybody they've ever loved.
Yeah, they love the numbers.
We're replacing Hogue with Aaron Schatz.
Yes.
Jim loved him.
No, but he does bring a different perspective than what some of the other people that we bring on. So again, it just provides our audience with another way.
DVOA.
And DVOA is such a great tool to use throughout the NFL season to compare and contrast how your team's actually doing compared to some of the better teams of the league. Very useful tool there.
Well, and I did think it was interesting and alarming and slightly terrifying that at the start of it, 16% chance to make the playoffs. The old 1-6er.
Yep.
That's aggressive on the down.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to push back, but I get his reasoning. You don't know how good he's going to be. And the scariest part about it, which I do think is worth underlining to everybody in the chat and everybody elsewhere, did I hear a lot of people saying at this time that the Panthers made a huge mistake and they should have taken C.J. Stroud and not Bryce Young? No one was saying that. Literally no one. And so I think that Caleb's going to be the best quarterback of this draft. The Bears think it. Caleb thinks it. Jaylon Johnson thinks it. But you don't know until you know, and we don't know.
And you know what, Greg, you've always said this. Like, if his numbers would have went along with a successful Bears season, how would this chat look right now compared to how it's kind of
That's the best part about numbers.
Exactly.
I only use them when they benefit me.
Exactly.
And if they don't benefit me, then
they
say
don't
they're
exist.
garbage.
They don't exist.
I do that with PFF all the time.
So.
Yeah. And Rob saying, yes, Carmen, the Carolina coaching staff wanted Stroud and David Tepper overruled them. I remember that at the time.
Yes, there were some people that had Stroud over Bryce Young.
But it wasn't some massive deal. And by the way, we always like to talk about Patrick Mahomes and Mitch Trubisky and Deshaun Watson. Nobody was screaming for Mahomes at the time.
No.
Where I was screaming about at the time was you take the dude who went 28-2 and beat Alabama in the national championship game over the idiot, with all due respect, that went 8-5 in his one season starting and sat behind a guy that no one's ever heard of at Carolina. That made no sense. This was a lot different.
Mm-hmm.
Mubs. My guy Mubs in the chat saying, do numbers on the scale benefit Gregory? Yeah, they do. You dick.
Okay. This is the time of the show.
This is where Greg loses his mind.
Yes, that Greg.
It's called the Meatball Meltdown Hour.
$2 super chat from Bear Down Omaha. We love you, Bear Down Omaha. We miss you. Free Adam Hogue. We are freeing Hogue.
Hogue's got to free himself.
That's true.
Well, we had free him too. We put him.
Somebody's gonna have to call him in from the lake. He's on a boat somewhere far away.
Well, he was celebrating his amazing son James's 10th birthday. Some really nice posts about that. James is the man. We are actually off tomorrow because we're working all week.
We are not off tomorrow.
Well, right. We're off at this time tomorrow. Excuse me. There will be Brags After Dark at its regularly scheduled time at 7 o'clock tomorrow night, which is going to be an amazing show. As always, Greg does a great job on that show.
It's Bears After Dark with Corey Wooten. It's not Brags After Dark. I'm not a me guy.
Brags After Dark going on his own to the river to get on Hard Knocks without us after dark tomorrow night at 7. And then we're back on Wednesday.
Hogue returns.
For the Hogue return. And then
Wednesday is when rookies report to camp too, right?
What's today's date?
I think rookies report the 17th, and then the entire team has to report the 19th. Right?
This Friday.
Did I get
this Friday.
16th.
Regardless, I think it's Wednesday, rookies report. Friday, the rest of the team has to report. Saturday's the first practice. Sunday, practice. Monday, practice.
We'll be with you all weekend long. Friday after polls and Floose Meet the Media. Saturday after the first practice. Sunday after the second practice. We will be doing shows after every single practice all training camp long. So the schedule does change, of course, with training camp going on. Not a lot of noon shows, but
our schedule's going to start.
Nobody's going to cover training camp the way we're going to cover training camp.
Literally nobody.
So hit that subscribe button, hit the like button for today, and we appreciate the support as always. Aaron Schatz, thank you for being with us. We greatly appreciated that. Greg, congratulations on having a chance at least to be on Hard Knocks.
Yeah, we'll see.
We're very proud
fun.
of you.
Gonna get on.
It was fun.
It's a great job.
I can't wait for August 6th. Stay tuned.
I mean, I honestly think there should just be a picture of you to start the show. What do you think, Nate?
With the crutches?
Definitely how
Yeah.
they should have.
Just to zoom in on you and your shirt and your hat and your smile and your anger and your all the
anger. I'm happy.
Yeah.
You're an angry.
Football's back.
That's right. You're angry.
By halftime.
Yeah.
Typically.
Steven,
That's how it goes.
Steven, thanks for producing. Emma, thanks for contributing. Slay.
Slay.
We're
Slay
back
the
on.
day.
We're back on Wednesday for the Hogue return. Have a great rest of your Monday. Stay safe out there. Stay cool. We'll see you then.
We all silly like the mayor.